Hello and welcome to Podtoid. I'm CJ.
I'm Chris.
I'm Dan.
Ich bin die Charlotte. Willkommen, meine Damen und Herren.
Ooh, someone's embracing their new German lifestyle. I guess shouldn't say new. You've been there for a while.
6 years, yeah. I just thought I'd do... Actually, I think I got some stuff wrong in that because I don't say Damen und Herren very much. So, yeah, I'm showing my crappy German skills as much as Occam's was showing his crappy Spanish skills. So somebody needs to do Italian next week. Or, I don't know. Hebrew? I don't know.
The only Italian I know is like the names of horror films.
I mean...
Like La Casa Sperduta nel Parco. Or... E tu vivrai nel terrore l'Atlida.
The only Italian I know is, hello, it's me, Mario. So long, gay Bowser.
So racist Italian now.
Yes, I only know racist Italian.
No Occam's, where is he?
Occam's is enjoying the Labor Day weekend with his wife / partner / lady friend / I don't know, girl.
Well, that's what he's telling you. But I'm afraid I've got a truth bomb to drop.
Is he cheating on us with another podcast?
No, he's not on the show because I woke up this morning and made the decision that he needed to cease all third-party engagements. So anywhere that he gets to build his name or his brand that I don't get a cut of the profit, he has 30 days to cease that activity.
Damn.
And while we're at it, CJ, you know, CJ is a cool name. It's also now your actual name because I own your real name now.
Oh, damn it. That's going to confuse so many people at work.
I didn't know if it was legally viable, but I just sent you an email and decided that was enough.
Yeah, you've got 30 days.
Yeah. But wait a second. Aren't I an independent contractor? I don't think you can do that.
Shh. You know, if a plumber comes to my house and fixes my pipes, I'm not allowed to say to him, you can't fix the pipes of the house down the road.
Maybe you can now, though. Just think about that. If no one fights this, we just all have to go with it, and suddenly we'll have the rights to everyone's work, so long as they do one single job for us. Mm. You flip a burger for me at Burger King? Sorry, you can't do that for anyone else. You're my burger flipper now.
Or on your own time in your own house.
Yeah.
Have we just invented a backstory for the butler in Tomb Raider 3?
Maybe. That's the one in Washington, right? I think it was in Washington.
That's the one where you can do a backflip, and in doing so you can lock your butler in the fridge. There's some sort of abuse going on there, and I'd kind of like to know how Lara ended up in this situation, how she ended up being, so mean to this butler. And I like to think that actually he was a freelance butler and she just decided enough was enough and just, locked him in the house.
Oh man, Lara Croft and her mansion and her riches.
Just another way the 1% is taking advantage of the 99.
I mean, we all love Lara Croft. Obviously, she's a great video game hero and a trendsetter. But she's probably a Tory voter.
Oh, definitely a Tory, definitely, and opposed the anti-fox hunting bill as well.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if she hunts dinosaurs, she's gonna hunt foxes.
How are you, CJ?
I'm doing good, except for all the forest fires around California that are just sending their smoke billowing our way to the rest in the valley. I went outside this morning and we have an orange sun. You can't really see that far, and it's foggy, but then you take one whiff, oh wait, no, that's forest fire smoke. Never mind, not foggy, not a pleasant early morning fog. No, it's a horrifying wildfire smoke. Okay, yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah, and we're in the middle of a heat wave until Tuesday, knock on wood. So not really the best of times here in California, and certainly not for a fucking Labor Day weekend when everyone's just supposed to be chilling and barbecuing. Although I guess our woods are barbecuing in their own unique way.
Well, I hope you all stay safe anyway. Anyone listening who's in California.
Yeah, definitely. Thankfully, a lot of the big fires from earlier in the summer, and by earlier in the summer, I mean 2 weeks ago, are now like more than 50% contained. So it's just these new ones. We just had one breakout, I think 4 days ago, and it just spread like it spread like wildfire. So yeah, fire season, knock on wood, hopefully coming to an end here in about two to 3 weeks. So at least new wildfires. This will be fighting these current ones for a few more weeks though. So yeah, that's what's happened in my neck of the woods. Dan, what are you up to? What have you been up to these past 2 weeks?
Playing video games. Very boring,
Okay.
I know.
Well, we're definitely gonna be talking about that today. And this is episode 457. We're going to be answering some of your listener questions later in the show. We got some good ones this week. We're also going to be talking about the recently announced Super Mario games, and in honor of them, this episode of Podtoid will also only be available until March 31st, 2021. So make sure you listen to it before then, because then it'll be gone forever. Charlotte, how you doing? How's Germany?
It's very German, I guess. I started a new job. I moved. I sent in my citizenship application yesterday, so it's just been kind of crazy, and I'm very tired by the end of the day. So I've still been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed to sort of take the edge off of how mind-numbingly boring and yet also extremely stressful the past couple of weeks have been. So
well, that's what video games are here for, to take the stress off, let us relax, etc., etc.
Yep, and also lots of podcasts, which is why I'm going to be talking about a podcast today instead of regaling everybody with more Assassin's Creed stuff, because I can't really say much more except for it's great. So
man, that sounds like another third-party engagement. You might have a letter from me in your
You might have to cease that in 30 days.
Well, unfortunately, I actually don't have a story to start the show off with today. I could not find anything that was funny, interesting, noteworthy, a little bit naughty. It's just been a lot of crap these past 2 weeks. So I guess we should really just get started talking about games. And Dan, you have what might be the biggest game of the fall that you've been playing through. I want to hear about Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah, Marvel's Avengers. It's kind of shit, and I wish someone else made it. Is the short end of it.
There's your box quote.
Yeah, it's like not at all what I would want out of an Avengers game. Just when I first saw like the initial stuff out of E3, I was like, "Oh, all right, it's a little janky. It looks borderline like a movie game we would have seen from like the last generation in terms of how it plays." And if it would have just been like 7 to 10 hours of just like this Uncharted tier game, but with superheroes, I would have been fine with that. I would have been like, yeah, that's fine. But like after the first opening 2 hours, all of that just falls off a cliff, and it's like, all right, time to do some live service stuff. Get ready to activate switches, defend waves or fight off waves of enemies, and get ready to do that 20 times. You want loot? We got loot. But it's not even cosmetic in any shape or form. You get epic rare items, but you don't even fucking see them. Which is, what's the point then? But you can also buy cool skins. So that also just is weird.
Yeah, what do you mean by you don't see them? Do you mean they're
so
like effects?
You can unlock like legendary loot and stuff by doing missions and whatnot, but it just equips. It's like a JRPG. Like you just slap it on and you see the numbers go up. But you can also buy skins, which I feel like is just such a weird microcosm of ideas. It's so weird to me that like by the end of this generation, we're in this like phase now where like shit awful mobile tactics of making money are now in like $60 games. It's so weird
because those shit awful mobile titles make $1 billion if they're successful a year. In 2020, it's really hard for me to look at purchasing skins as something that is, oh, I can't believe they're doing that. As
not only that,
it's just
like these skins they're not even interesting to me. Like I'm not a huge comic book guy, but like I liked Iron Man's default, gold, red, and armor outfit. So when I see all these other Iron Man outfits that are like silver and blue and yada yada yada, you buy them with in-game currency or with money and whatnot, I have zero interest at all. I'm like, nah, I'll just keep rocking this default armor.
It was kind of an interesting moment I had this week with you in this game, Dan, because you messaged me. You messaged me and you said, it literally went like this. Like at 8 a.m., I got a message from Dan that was like, this game's pretty good, and there's this going on, and I'm kind of feeling it, and I'm getting a kick out of it, and maybe people are being a little harsh on it. And then literally 3 hours later, I get a notification, and it's just a message from you saying, "Yeah, I take it all back. I hate this game."
That's about the time I hit the live service stuff and went, "Oh, it's this," because it starts off really good. Like overall, the story is pretty decent, admittedly, and there's a lot of really cool big set piece moments, battles between all kind of the live service jargon. Like when you're defending off waves of enemies and flipping switches and destroying things on these open-ish, worldish maps. Like they're not maps, but they're like hubs that you go and explore and whatnot. And think of like Destiny and how you drop into like one of those hubs and you do a mission there and stuff. It's basically that. But prior to all that, you start off as Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. And like the first 2 hours feel like, like I said, an action-adventure game where you're like roaming around and you're meeting the Avengers, you run into Bruce Banner, and you're getting in his RV and stuff, and you're doing a road trip. And I'm like, that's around the time I messaged Chris, was like, yeah, I'm kind of digging this. And then we got like everything all back up and running, and the Avengers were all back together, and then it turns into a service game, which blew my mind. And I was just not expecting. Because I didn't really read any of the previews, I didn't really look at a whole lot of the gameplay stuff, I didn't play the beta. So that all caught me by surprise, and that's when I sent that message to Moyes, being like, I take it all back. I hate this.
Wait, have you really not been paying attention this entire time?
No, I saw the E3. I saw the E3 stuff, and I was like, all right, action adventure game with the Marvels, whatever. And then I just ignored the beta stuff, and I got my copy. I figured, well, I'll do a video review of this. By the way, the full review is up now on the site by Chris Carter. There's going to be a video version probably up the day this is up. If not then the following day. So look forward to that. But no, yeah, I went into this kind of blind for the most part, just more or less just seeing the E3 stuff. And I expected maybe some sort of action-adventure game that's like 7 to 10 hours long. Nah. I had no idea that it was this big multiplayer thing. Like, I remember hearing about the beta and being like, that's kind of weird. There's a beta for a single-player game. And I didn't really look into it all that much.
Well, I have to say, being a fan of the Marvel films, I'm really glad they've captured my favorite part of those movies, which is all the times the heroes flip switches. I think we all can agree that there was no greater moment in Endgame than when Tony had to flip a bunch of switches. So.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love when Black Widow had to hack a thing, and then once you hack the thing, you then have to. She sat there for about 15 minutes fighting off waves of guys. It's great.
Just so authentic to the comics and the movies.
But like a lot of people are like a lot of people still are enjoying the game, and kudos to them. Maybe they're finding something there. Maybe I'll find something in the post game, because there is still a post game that's like more of the multiplayer stuff, but I'm not really sure what I'll think of that. I'm still going to capture footage for that actually, like right after this. I only finished the single player campaign, and it's single player ish. There's like distinctly single player only missions, but you can also do a bunch of multiplayer stuff in between it all as the side stuff to help get more gear and level up and all that. But the thing that also bugs me with this game is the gameplay just isn't all that great. It's like this weird mishmash of like Arkham meets the what was that Marvel game that came out a while back there for the Switch?
Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah, it's like a mishmash of that minus all the other Marvel characters with kind of Arkham combat to it. The problem is the camera is so close to the characters' backs that when there's like 30 plus enemies all around you, it turns the HUD in just a complete clusterfuck of exclamation points all over the place, warning you of things that are about to hit you. And it's just kind of a mess. And characters that fly around as well, like Thor and Iron Man, with the cameras so close to their backs, and you're dealing with exclamation points all over the place, all kinds of enemies shooting you. It only takes one shot to just knock you out of the sky and you're down on the ground again. It's just a mess. Like, I never, ever play Iron Man or Thor. Like, I've just been sticking entirely to Ms. Marvel or Black Widow or a certain other character who died but totally didn't. Spoilers.
Yeah, we all know.
Yeah. And between all that, there's also just a bunch of jank. There's like technical issues. I put up a video in Slack of this weird freezing issue I had that happened to me twice. Crashing, audio just randomly cutting out and muting. I've had entire conversations where like Thor, there's this one side mission where Thor is trying to stop a fake version of himself. You could probably figure out who the fake is if you know anything about Marvel comics or the recent MCU stuff. And like he's having a conversation with him fake self, but the audio cuts out for that character, so it's just Thor talking and then waiting for the other person to finish talking. I can't hear them, just the audio cut out. Just stuff like that. I've had stuff where like I gotta flip a switch to get through a door before this thing explodes that I'm in, and the switch is broken and won't flip, and I'm like, oh great, I guess I'm gonna fail this mission now. And I fail. I feel like if this was a brand new IP from Square Enix, and they're like, hey, we have this superhero-themed live service game, people would be shitting on this thing like you wouldn't believe. People would be calling this Anthem 2.0. The only thing this game has going for it, I think, is that it has the Avengers branding, and just like, it's the Avengers. That's it. That's literally, I think, all this thing has going for it.
Your description of failing that mission basically has just put me off buying this for me and my nephew as a game to play together.
I'm sure it'll get like patched,
until that gets fixed.
Like,
No. Like for now, it's put me off for now until it gets fixed. Because I can stomach some of those other bugs that you talked about. In fact, I love audio bugs when they turn out to be really funny. Like when I played through Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition and the dialogue would just randomly switch to German and French for no reason. Love that audio bug. That's funny. And I think the description of Thor having a conversation with faux Thor and only hearing one side of it, I would get a kick out of that. But
yeah.
There's no way I'm not picking this game up like down the line to play through that story with Kamala Khan in it because I fucking love her. But I just at the end of the day, like I haven't played it, but I'm going off the opinions and the things I've read. But like at the end of the day, I'm not sure how the game hasn't knocked it out of the park because of what it is and its branding and because like.
That's why I started this off with saying I wish somebody else made this.
Well, it's like, when they announced Dawn of Justice, the film, and it was like, okay, we're going to have a film with Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman in, and the film's bad. And it's like, how do you do that? How does it not at least be very good, let alone excellent? So this is kind of the same thing where you're like, we've got this open world Avengers game in, and it's got all these characters, and it's going to have a bunch more characters. And then people are like disappointed in it, and it's almost just like, I don't know how we do that, but I'll check it out down the line still.
Well, it's not open world, but like I said, think Destiny, where you go to like hub area kind of things.
So what's like, no pun intended, but what's like the end game? Is it like you finish the story and then you just like kind of drop in for raids and like
as far as I can tell, once you finish the story, the bad guys of the storyline are AIM, or in the comics and stuff.
Yeah,
this whole comic series around that, and the post game is exactly that. You're continuing the fight against AIM, and
okay.
From what I understand, the content is super limited, but I'll find out after this. But it just seems like you're continuing to grind and get your level, your power up. Like I'm almost near the end of the campaign at this point. My characters are all in their 20s, but there's like a trophy for reaching like 150 or something like that. So I'm assuming there's still going to be content to come and stuff. So. And at the same time, I think there's potential here. I think like if they kept these characters and these these incarnations of them and like gave them their own games and built up to the next Avengers game, like if this particular Iron Man got his own game and so forth, and if we got a Ms. Marvel game, a Black Widow game, and all this kind of stuff, and they kept expanding this Marvel game universe, if you will, and then went on to the next Avengers game. I'd be curious if they could pull it off, because I think there's tons of potential, I think, for a Marvel game universe.
Just to wrap this up, I think that would be difficult to do due to the how much it costs to make games.
Yeah.
And, I hate to say this, but probably a Black Widow or a Miss Marvel game wouldn't sell that well.
It's a shame, too, just Kamala Khan is, like, fucking carrying all the weight here in terms of like likability of these characters, hands down.
That's definitely the best character
in the game.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Charlotte. Charlotte, why don't you tell us about Oh No, Ross and Carrie?
I'm about 70 hours into Assassin's Creed Odyssey by now, and it would have to have an absolutely fantastic soundtrack for me to want to just listen to the soundtrack for 70 hours. So I have started listening to podcasts while I play it. And I've been running a bit dry because the ones that I used to listen to, I just kind of not feeling like going back into them. I'm not really feeling like listening to true crime at the moment, that like this year's been bad enough as it is without me making it sound, like listening to things that are just going to make me feel bad afterwards. And I stumbled across this podcast series called Oh No, Ross and Carrie, and it's been going since 2011. So if you like the sound of it, there is a 9-year backlog of this podcast. And it's basically an investigative journalism podcast where the two hosts, Ross Blotcher and Carrie Poppy, go about in Los Angeles and investigate sort of pseudoscience and sort of cults and stranger religions, and they actually turn up and go to meetings or try the things out and then give a review as to how much truth is behind them, if they're dangerous, if they're creepy, that kind of thing. So I've listened to episodes so far where they've reviewed things like Soylent, so the meal replacement system, because that's a bit strange, to things like cupping and acupuncture, to they've gone to Scientology meetings and Kabbalah meetings, and they actually turn up rather than just reading about them. And even like I listened to an episode this afternoon where Carrie pretended she was pregnant and went to a crisis center, they call them, to see if they were going to be telling her a load of scientific nonsense to get her to keep this fictional baby. So they go quite far, but they're also pretty respectful. Like they laugh at stuff that is patently ridiculous, but they don't talk about the believers themselves, who might not have done anything wrong except for believe the wrong things. They don't disparage such people, and they take a very respectful tone of things. I haven't really, I was a bit concerned because of the subject matter, that if I recommended this podcast, I was going to dig up something where somebody were like, oh, you can't recommend this podcast because they've done this and this. But so far I haven't found anything. The host, Carrie, one of the hosts, Carrie, has even done sort of talks about how to present such material while being respectful to the people involved. So, and it's been running for 9 years, and it's on the Maximum Fun network, which also has Sawbones, which is a medical history podcast, which is run by one of the McElroys and his wife. Yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty well known. I'm guessing a lot of listeners will have heard of this podcast before, but it's really good, and it's the subject matter is interesting, and it's presented in a very interesting fashion. So, yeah, I would totally recommend it if you haven't tried it out before. But it has been one of the highest ranking podcasts on iTunes before, so this might not be new information for a lot of people.
If you've listened to a lot of this, which it sounds like you have, do you have like a recommendation? Do you have like maybe one particular episode or a couple of episodes that really stuck out to you that maybe people could start with? Or
I think it's basically whatever you're most interested in. Just scroll through the backlog on Spotify and see what appeals to you. I mean, personally, I'm not that interested at the moment in listening to, I think their Scientology is actually sort of series is actually broken down into something like 10 episodes. And to be honest, I'm not up for like that much investment in it at the moment. But things like the Soylent episode is like 1 hour long episode where they talk about their experiences of trying it, and that's more interesting to me actually, because I know people who've tried things like Soylent, and it's also something where I'm just like, why the hell would you do that? So that was fascinating for me personally. So I think just go through the list, and if there's a subject like some sort of conspiracy theory or fringe religion or something that you're interested in, then pick that episode and listen to it.
Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up with me. I played 2 games for review this week, but I'm only going to talk about one of them, and that is the port of a 23-year-old PlayStation game that was originally exclusive to Japan. Back then, it was known as Moon Remix RPG Adventure. Now it is just known as Moon. Yoshiro Kimura, the guy who's running Onion Games, helped create the title back then for Love to Lick, and with a solid translation from Tim Rogers. They were able to bring it west for the very first time. It released on the Nintendo eShop back at the end of August, and we went through it with Adzuken, who's one of our contributors on Destructoid, for a 2-person review. This is a title that up until now, I've kind of only been able to experience in screenshots. So my mind really got carried away with what type of game it is. And when you hear the original name of Moon Remix RPG Adventure, you really need to focus on the adventure part to know what you're in store for, because it's not really an RPG. You level up, but it's not like a classic leveling up system. Basically, this is an adventure game where you're cleaning up the mess left behind by the hero of an RPG. In fact, it's the RPG you're playing at the beginning of this game before getting sucked into the game world. So really, you're just cleaning up your own mess. And where this is a, quote, remix RPG is basically you're experiencing a JRPG from a different point of view, one where you're looking at the hero who has not necessarily heroic. To progress through the game, you have to earn love. And you earn love by completing tasks for NPCs or by rescuing the souls of the animals that the hero has killed. And unlike an actual RPG where you kill dozens or hundreds of the same type of animal over and over again, it's just one of each in this one. So you don't have to worry about like saving 500 souls of slimes. A lot of these are really easy. Like the souls will literally just walk in front of you and you just reach out and catch them. Others are a puzzle that you have to solve, and that's mainly what most of this game is. It's just a lot of interconnected puzzles that you solve in order to earn love. And love really makes a difference here because it allows you to play for longer. So the game has a time mechanic where you have a certain amount of time before you have to be back in bed or it's game over, and you go back to the last time you saved, which is every time you go to bed at night or day or whatever time you go to bed. So any amount of love that you get from the animals or completing these little jobs for the NPCs, when you go to bed, you meet, I can't remember the character's name. I think it's like the queen, who takes your love, counts it up, and then levels you up based on how much you've collected. And so the higher you level yourself up, the more time you get out in the world. Both Adzukin and I died within the first 10 minutes of the game because we didn't understand this mechanic, and it does nothing to explain it to you, which is why if you're going to play this game, for God's sakes, download the manual and read it. But then after a certain point, after you've leveled up, it really doesn't come into effect again. Like it's easy to get a lot of stuff done before you find yourself dying, and there are ways to extend the time, like you can eat food and stuff like that. So when you have a lot of time, like as you level up, what you're really supposed to do is kind of follow around the characters and learn their different routines, and you have to learn it for day and night and on different days of the week. So there is a lot to take into account here if you want to completely 100% this game. I did not rescue the soul of every animal. I did not do every single little NPC quest. I did help a bird go to college. That was fun. But I didn't necessarily do everything that you can do in the game, and I still was able to get all the way to the ending. The bird going to college is just kind of one of the peculiar situations there are in this game. There's a Japanese guy who does not like Westerners. You can go to a bar and just see who gets drunk. There's a certain point where you have to set yourself on fire to save a little girl's animal. It's endearing, it's quirky, it's weird, and I really love everything about it except for all the waiting. It really hits home just kind of how much you have to wait in order to get some stuff done in this game as you near the end, as you near the point when you can go and just complete the game. Because there are, depending on what you've done, there are certain elements that only show up on a certain time of day or on a certain day of the week. For instance, there is a fishing contest that is only one day of the week, and you're supposed to catch more fish than other people. And I looked online after I beat this game, and the number you're supposed to get is 5 fish. The first time I did this game, I got 1 bite, and I spent the rest of the in-game day fighting this fish in order to reel it in. So I literally only had one fish, 1 chance, and then the fishing contest ended, and it's like, well, now I have to wait another week, or I don't care about this anymore. So,
right.
An event like that is just like, I'm not going to do this again. No. But beyond that, it's a really interesting game. It has some wonderful, I personally like the art direction. Adzukin did not. I love all the characters because they're all so quirky and weird. And if you've played any other Onion games, you'll recognize the type of characterization they have going on here. And finally, the music. There are albums you can buy from one of the characters in the game, and every single one of these tracks is great. Every single one.
So this game, because this was originally on the PlayStation, right?
Correct.
But we never got it, I assume. I know we didn't get it here in Europe for sure.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to come to America, but for whatever reason, it was canceled. Like its localization was canceled.
It's really interesting because it sounds like really quirky and unique, and it's funny how sometimes like stuff like that doesn't make the jump overseas because they actually think, oh, it's too different or it's too unique or it's too weird and no one will buy it. And it's interesting when down the line people play these games and they're really kind of creative, and it's just like there was nothing wrong with just having that creativity, in 1996 or whatever.
Well, Adzukin said in her part of the review that if this had come out when she was, back in 1997, she would have been like singing its praises from the mountains and stuff.
Right.
I think I'm only able to appreciate it now that I'm a bit more mature.
Okay.
And have had a lot of time to appreciate games that aren't necessarily more action oriented.
It sounds pretty cool, and it's great because like I'm a big fan of like lost stuff, like lost films that get rediscovered or whatever. And whenever these games come out and it's like, oh, a whole new audience has got an opportunity to try something that maybe would have just been kind of consigned to time otherwise, I always think that's really cool. Yeah,
absolutely. And I right after this game came out, there was a image going around on Twitter of the like either the Love to Lick family tree or the Moon family tree, and it kind of showed all the different quirky games and developers that have spun out of this short-lived developer. Because Love to Lick only released 3 games: Moon, UFO, and LOL. And then they all kind of went off to form their own companies and stuff like that. And so many of the games that they've released after this have also remained in Japan only. Which is really disappointing because as we continue to see with stuff like with the success of Undertale, with the success of the Earthbound re-releases, hopefully with the success of this as well, there is a market for these kind of weird, strange games. And I hope this is successful because it does show that even if something is almost 25 years old, there is still going to be a market for it from people who have been interested this entire time, or maybe are just hearing about it for the first time, but they're coming off a game like, West of Loathing or something.
This is Podtoid.
All right, that is it for games. And normally we don't do news when we do viewer questions, but we this one big story we wanted to cover, so it is time for the news.
This is the news.
Nintendo held a surprise direct this week confirming the long-rumored 3D All-Stars compilation along with some other games and toys that all seem to come with a catch. So to start us off, the Super Mario 3D All-Stars game will bring together Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy into one complete package, and it comes out in less than 2 weeks. Nintendo also announced a Super Mario Bros. Take on the Tetris 99 formula with Super Mario Bros. 35, which pits 35 players against one another, where the enemies you defeat in your game are sent to the screens of others. That game will be free to play on Nintendo Switch Online, and it will only be available until March 31st, 2021, as will the physical and digital versions of Super Mario 3D All-Stars. For whatever reason, Nintendo has decided to give these products a temporary lifespan. The Direct also confirmed that Super Mario 3D World is getting ported to Switch with extra content. There's a lot of Mario merchandise coming out, and what's probably going to be a huge holiday toy this season, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, which is a remote control Mario Kart that you control with your Switch and make courses around your house that are then beamed onto the screen of your console like a real Mario Kart track. That sounds incredibly dope. I do not have the space for it in my apartment, but I hope people who do have that sort of space and enough hardwood floors enjoy it.
It sounds incredibly dangerous. I can imagine like some kids setting it up and then like their brother coming in and like just tripping over the cart and then trip to the emergency room. I don't know. I just think like stuff lying around on the floor is inherently dangerous. Just a quirk of mine.
Charlotte, all the best toys are dangerous. You know that.
Yeah, what's it? I feel like there was some sort of Simpsons episodes where they took apart Hot Wheels and there was like just nails hanging out of the track or something. I don't know.
A bag of glass. Yeah.
Dan, this whole limited time thing, that's kind of hard to get past, right? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, Nintendo are still in this bubble, like they're still back in 2010. They did the same shenanigans with Super Mario All-Stars for the Wii. They pulled like the same exact limited quantity stuff, and that thing went on eBay like a couple of months later, and it's doubled in price since then, pretty much. And the same's gonna happen here. I've seen a forum post of someone claiming they're gonna buy 10 copies and throw them up on eBay during the 2021 Christmas rush. Like, scalpers are gonna have a heyday, and I don't know why Nintendo keep encouraging them like that.
And it's not only it's not even that they just have a heyday; they get a heads up on it. Like they're even told, and here's when it will become valuable. Like,
it's nuts.
Or, I mean, I've seen a lot of theories about what's going to happen, and kind of the most prevalent one is that after March 31st, they're going to be able to buy those games individually on the eShop. So they just
hopefully Galaxy 2 as well.
Yeah, hopefully Galaxy 2, because that was the one missing. That was missing from everything. From
which blows my mind.
Missing from the collection and missing from the video afterwards. So
Nintendo has just always been super big on kind of creating that further demand. Like, just from all the time I've spent working in shops, it was always so hard to order in Nintendo shit at Christmas. It was always so difficult to get a reasonable quantity of anything, and to know that it had arrived and to know when it would arrive. Pokemon Stadium, you can go back as far as that. You get like Wii Fit, fucking hell, Wii Fit. Like, all of this stuff was kind of really hard to get hold of, and it didn't necessarily always feel like it was really hard to get hold of because there wasn't the stock out there. It was always just like, you know, you ordered 6, you got 2, you know, thing. And like I say, it goes as far back as I remember the launch of Pokemon Stadium, and what a nightmare it was as a shop trying to order that game and trying to take pre-orders for it and not being told when they were going to arrive. And don't get me wrong, this stuff is all stuff that blew up, that sold a lot, especially at Christmas, especially Wii Fit, of course.
Yeah.
But other stuff that blew up from other companies didn't always have the same... You didn't have the same difficulties knowing when you were getting it or getting the amount you ordered. Occasionally with some games, I remember Red Dead Redemption was hell to get hold of at launch. But generally, if you wanted something, it came in. But if it was coming from Nintendo, you put your order in and then you just crossed your fingers, basically. So there's always been this thing of creating demand, further demand.
And it should be noted that this is not the first time that Nintendo has given a cutoff date to games that you can purchase or download. Some examples I've seen are the Ambassador games for the Game Boy Advance Ambassador games that came to the 3DS. You know, those you could only get if you bought a 3DS in the first 4 or 5 months of release. There's the Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Anniversary Edition that was exclusive to the Nintendo DS. Something like the Metroid Prime trilogy was also very limited in its release. Dan, you brought up the Super Mario All-Stars. I think they actually did re-release that, but they re-released it without all the extra stuff. Because you remember the original version had a booklet and a CD with it, in addition to the game. But just because they've done it before doesn't make it okay.
No, honestly, I find this sort of behavior quite off-putting. I think it just goes back to me being always the kid as a kid who would get consoles almost as the next one was coming out. And to an extent, I still kind of do that because I'm very money conscious. And it's just like, it just must be so hard being a kid who, like, the parents can't afford to get the latest stuff and seeing this time limited stuff. It just makes me really sad, and it kind of makes me a bit annoyed at Nintendo, to be honest. Like, I don't like any company that's not open to that, like, places limits that means that less well-off consumers can't get into that sort of game or into that sort of console at all. Like, by all means, have the expensive versions of consoles. By all means, have deluxe packages of things. But time limiting things is a bit of a dick move.
Aside from the marketing thing, which should be the thing that we kind of head up on, because we don't know, like you say, CJ, we don't know all the details. We don't know what they have planned for after that past date. But aside from the marketing thing, does anyone have any thoughts on the actual products? Like, myself, I'm not too bothered about those 3D Mario games. I never, I wasn't then, and I'm not now. I think the Mario 35 is a fun concept. I quite like the sound of it, and the Mario Kart, I'm just more interested in the technology of what they've done with it rather than the product itself. But I assume that some of you guys are totally up for that 3D collection.
Oh yeah, like I am really stoked to go back and play 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy like that. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun September. After going through Avengers, I think going into Mario will be a real nice palate cleanser, and I'm looking forward to it.
So all it takes for you to enjoy the rest of the year is to play a bunch of games that came out decades ago.
Hell yeah.
I will say the Super Mario Brothers 35 is probably the best announcement to come out of that. That just looks like so much fun, and I've had a blast with Tetris 99, so I can just imagine what other games they can add that formula to. What other Nintendo titles can you make a little battle royale of? Are we going to get like a Zelda one next year? Imagine that. I mean, sky's the limit now.
This is Podtoid.
All right, well, it is the first show of the month, and that means it is time to open the goddamn mail.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail.
We're going to start this with Siddhartha85, who has a question I like very much. One of the big things with the new console generation is backward compatibility, and they say that they've never really had a great experience with backward compatibility on a console outside of maybe playing the first Fable on an Xbox 360. Do we have a fond memory of playing an older gen game using backward compatibility?
Yeah, I remember playing the PlayStation 2 era of the Grand Theft Auto trilogy on my fat PlayStation 3 prior to GTA 4 coming out. And I love those games in particular, so being able to just pop them into my PlayStation 2, or 3, was great. Like, being able to just play my PlayStation 2 in one library on that system, being able to unplug those systems, or, well, the PS2 to be more exact, was great. Yeah. And the fact 14 years later, I still need to have my PlayStation 3 set up, I wish I could unplug it. I really do.
I think for me, my best memory of playing a game using backward compatibility was experiencing a game I otherwise wouldn't have been able to because I didn't own the original hardware it was on. And this, we're going back all the way to the launch of the Game Boy Advance. If you remember when that came out, the Legend of Zelda Oracle games came out like a month before for the Game Boy Color. So I wasn't going to buy a Game Boy Color just to play that game, but I could buy a Game Boy Advance, and the first game I bought for it was Oracle of Seasons. And then a few years later, when I was in college and had a Game Boy Advance SP, I was finally able to play through Link's Awakening for the first time. So, yeah, without the backward compatibility, I wouldn't have been able to experience those games for like another 10 years when they showed up on the 3DS eShop.
Yeah, I didn't even think about handhelds. I've played like so many DS games on my 3DS. It's ridiculous. Like stuff like the Shin Megami Tensei series, 999, 9 Doors, 9 Persons, whatever that is. Playing that was great. Like I've experienced so many DS games for the first time on my 3DS. And backwards compatibility is great. And I'm excited to see what Xbox does with it. And I'm really upset that PlayStation just seemingly ignored it, because I feel like the PlayStation 5 would be like, if this is going to be the final generation of like physical games before we just embrace the digital future, having the PlayStation 5 be able to play PlayStation 1 through 4 games would be a real nice send-off, at least physical media. But it is what it is. Sony are like, no, we believe in generations. So the PlayStation 3 is going to remain plugged in, I guess.
Sucking up that power.
Yeah.
So, me putting, for example, a PS1 disc into a PS2 and playing it that way, I did that so much that it's kind of hard to isolate individual circumstances that I was fond of. I guess the thing that sort of fits the bill most is more like emulated backwards compatibility, where like a PS2 game is digitally offered for the PS3, and that would be playing Persona 3 Fez for the first time. More because it was like I'd kind of heard rumors about the games, and like friends had played the game 10 years ago, and then I hadn't been playing games again for a long time, and then I bought it on a whim for not much money, plonked it on, and then I was just hooked for the next month or so. Funny stories. I have plenty of funny stories with backwards compatibility though. Just, hooking stuff up and it just doesn't look right or looks weird. That's always fun. But yeah, my main sort of fond memory is with more the emulated games, because you can get all sorts of like emulated backwards compatibility games still for the PS3, like Dan said, all of the Shin Megami Tensei, Digital Devil Saga. I keep wanting to play Digital Devil Saga. It's full of mazes that I can't navigate, but the game itself seems fine. It's just my lack of direction that's stopping me from playing that all the way through.
Our next question comes from Granadico. They want to know if there is a holiday or special theme day from another country you would like to celebrate.
Yes, there is. For years and years now, I've wanted to take part in La Tomatina. Do you guys know what that is?
Nope.
Oh, is that like the tomato throwing festival in Spain?
It's a 2-hour tomato fight that happens in Valencia, and it's taken place almost every year since 1945. So basically, these trucks filled with tomatoes just patrol like the streets of this one town, and everyone just pelts the shit out of each other with tomatoes. And then, like, when it's all over, like, the fire crews roll in and just like hose down everybody and all the walls. And because of the citric acid in the tomatoes, everything that gets pelted and washed just comes out like sparkling clean, like all the buildings and everything. But yeah, they fire a pistol or whatever, and then for 2 hours, like, these trucks have got thousands of tomatoes in, and they fire the pistol, and then for like 1 or 2 hours, whatever it is, everyone just has a all-out tomato battle royale. And I've wanted to be a part of that for like decades, but I don't. It's probably never going to happen.
That would be amazing.
I'm gonna say November 2nd, Matsuto's Day of the Dead, just because like the festival looks really cool. The painting, the face painting and stuff like that. All of that stuff looks so goddamn cool. But given the current situation of the world and the pandemic, probably not a good idea. So maybe wait till like vaccines are a thing and like give it a decade. Then let's do Day of the Dead.
So this is with the caveat that I just mean the food side of it and not everything else associated with it. But I have celebrated Thanksgiving before when I was working at a more international company, and we did like a potluck style Thanksgiving, and it was really nice. I really liked it. I liked a lot of the American food I got to try out. So yeah, I would definitely want to, I guess, take the food sort of history of Thanksgiving and just apply that to Sunday lunch, I guess, rather than, of course, Thanksgiving has a very thorny sort of background that I don't know if you know what I mean. So it's more the food, but because I can't really think of anything else. There is one thing I would like to take away though. One thing in Germany that I wish people would not do is Nikolaus, which is in principle it's great. So I think it's on the 6th of December. The idea is that something comes around and gives chocolate to all the kids. I don't like, because we don't have Nikolaus in England at all, so I've not really absorbed the story. What is very, very concerning though is that sometimes chocolate gets left in your shoes. Like, part of the strict sort of process around it is that you leave your shoes outside, and then whoever comes around and in this myth leaves the chocolate puts it in your shoes. And once I sort of opened the door on 6th of December and saw that somebody had put a chocolate Santa in my shoes, and I was like, thanks, now I have chocolate, but it stinks. Please don't put chocolate in my shoes. So It's great. Like last year, I just got left a chocolate Santa on my desk at work, and that's great. I just wish part of it wasn't putting the chocolate in shoes, because my shoes stink. I don't know about you guys, but I have very sweaty feet. So
my feet are disgusting. So that chocolate would immediately become toxic when it becomes, within 6 inches of anything my feet have been near. Yeah, that does not sound like a good tradition I would want to be a part of. For me, this was kind of I was going back and forth between two. On one hand, I would love to celebrate Diwali. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's the Hindu Lights Festival. Just because every time I've seen images of it, of just the night lit up with all these different lights, it's just been so spectacular. On the other hand, I'm afraid of dying alone and being eaten by the cat I will eventually get. So I kind of want to celebrate China Singles Day, or that Liz Duvarna matchmaking festival that they have in Ireland. Basically, I just want a holiday that's going to get me laid. That's all I'm looking for right now. So either of those will do.
If you try hard enough, CJ, any holiday can get you laid.
I want to get laid at La Tomatina.
Oh, yeast infections.
Speaking of getting laid, Fendable wants to know our 3 favorite Marvin Gaye songs for doing it. Now, I assume that 2 of those are obviously going to be Let's Get It On and Sexual Healing. Does anyone have a idea for the third one?
I don't.
No?
No.
No?
No.
Dan?
I'm going to pass.
Okay.
I think whoever asked that question, sorry if you said I blanked on that, but I think they think we're all collectively getting laid way more than we probably are.
Or that we're doing it to music from the 70s.
I once got laid to Cradle of Filth. You're asking the wrong person.
I'll tell you what, Fendable, put those two songs on your doing it list, and then before them, put up Your Precious Love that he did with Tammy Terrell. That's a great one to kick it off with. So.
I'll tell you what else as well. I like the fucking idea that I can last 3 songs. Mate, I put my favourite track on first just in case.
Occams is out right now, but he left us a few questions. First of all, Occams, yes, you should dress as a sexy Build-A-Bear assistant manager for Halloween whenever we get to celebrate Halloween again. Do you guys have Build-A-Bears out in your parts of the world?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
The choice is really bad here. Sometimes I do like cuddly toys still, even though I'm almost 30. And in America, they get really nice, sometimes video game themed or something. And then I find out in Germany it's not available. So that's always really sad.
I remember I went to a mall one time that didn't have a Build-A-Bear, but they had the knockoff. That was very depressing. They had none of the magic and joy of a Build-A-Bear. It just looked like a raffle machine that was filled with fluff that you put in a teddy bear. It was very sad. His real question is, besides Bowser, who is your favorite Mario enemy?
Does this include main bad guys or just any enemy?
I just say Mario enemy.
All right, Bullet Bills. I always liked Bullet Bills. Just a giant bullet with a cool little face on it coming at you. I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, I thought Bullet Bills were really rad.
I like taking control of Bullet Bills in Odyssey.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think they're my favorite ones to take control of. Chris?
Oh, it's easy. Chain Chomp. So easy. I've always liked Chain Chomp. I really like its weird design and its kind of psycho attitude. It's like a bizarre villain. It's kind of cute, but it's also really unnerving to look at. And it's almost like the Terminator of the Mario world. And when that whole Bowsette deal kicked off a couple of years ago, Chain Chompettes were the best girls. The Chain Chompettes people designed with the sharp teeth and the wild eyes were really cool. I've actually got an inflatable Chain Chomp that I've had for years and years and years. And is it over? It's staring at me right now with its dead eyes.
I went with Fawful, who is the one of the central villains from the Mario and Luigi series. It's kind of cheating because it is an RPG, so he gets a lot more of a personality than your average Mario game. But God damn, he's so fun and interesting.
I like the Hammer Bros because just chucking a hammer at somebody has got some sort of like it's real. I don't know. It's more tangible danger than some of the other sort of like
murderous
Bowser's.
intent.
Yeah.
I like the way they wear.
Yeah.
I like the way they wear like old school baseball helmets as well, like 1920s baseball helmets.
Yeah, I'm fond of a Hammer Brother.
While we're on the subject of Mario villains, just before we move on, the Koopa kids, right? Or not the Koopalings. Mm-hmm. It's always thrown me, just because I'll bring this out now because I don't know if I'll get the opportunity again. It's always thrown me that they had the weirdest namesakes. Because like the Koopalings were named after kind of the oddest pop culture icons. So there's like Wendy O. Cooper, who's like named after Wendy O. Williams, who was like the lead singer of the Plasmatics, which were like a really controversial punk band. And she was always on stage like spitting and taking all the clothes off and throwing up and carrying a chainsaw or whatever. And then there's like Morton Cooper Jr., who's named after that like asshole chat show host, Morton Downey Jr., who's like a super conservative, super controversial, really aggressive chat show host. And like Iggy, there's Iggy Cooper for Iggy Pop. And my point being, my long-labored point being, is like, for Nintendo, I thought it was so weird that the people the Cooper kids were named after are all like kind of conservative or aggressive or dangerous or drug taking or like kind of idols. I just always thought that was really bizarre.
I never knew that. I mean, I knew Ludwig von Koopa was.
Yeah, and there's like Lemmy. There's Lemmy, which is like Lemmy from Motorhead. And
wow, I did not know that.
But like those choices are just like the oddest pop culture people for like Nintendo to name their like cutesy like Koopa characters after. But you know, obviously that's like their English names. I'm sure they were called something different in Japan.
Right. Our next question comes to us from Goofy or Brute. They want to know, should we be worried that Sony and Microsoft have yet to announce release dates or prices for their new consoles?
I just think it's weird and I don't like it. Like as in like it's gotten to the point where it's kind of gone beyond frustrating and it's almost sinister now, in a sense of just like, what's going on? Like, is there? I don't know. I'm not as much. I'm not one of these massive industry insiders, so I can't. At first, it seemed like it was a big game of price chicken. Do you know what I mean? But like, it's fucking September, and we haven't got a date or a price, or even there's still some details that are missing. I'm at this point, and this is just a flippant remark. At this point, I'm half expecting one of them to hope the other delays release because of like COVID, and then wipes their brow and goes, phew, now we can do it as well. Because I don't remember it ever, like a game of kind of industry chicken being played this long and this down to the wire. But we're also in this crazy fucking year, like this 2020. So like, no, you don't need to be worried because it's just video games, but like, I don't know what's going on. I think it's really odd. And more people are starting to say maybe they should just like delay the whole next gen. And I don't think that's going to happen. But it's like I say, it's September 5th or 6th now. And, at one point there was a rumor that the Xbox was coming out for Thanksgiving, which is like, real soon.
Okay. But yeah, I think what Moyes said kind of sums it all up. But if on the topic of being worried, I would say not really. Like, worst case scenario, they get delayed. Like, and we have to wait a bit longer. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And even if you're like hoping to play like one of the many great launch titles, you still don't know what those are going to be outside of like Spider-Man, I guess. If you're hoping to play like upgraded games and stuff, like 90% of these like air quote upgrades are coming in 2021. Yeah. So like the launch is going to be just barren. It's going to be weird.
Like, launch figures and immediate feedback is so important to companies. Like, it's so important that they get to say very quickly how well something's done. And we know these consoles are going to be expensive, and so many people have got no fucking money. Yeah. And they're not revealing the price. They're not revealing the date. We're pushing into fall already. It's all very fucking weird. I don't know what they're playing at. I don't know what the end game is here.
It wouldn't surprise me if your hunch about them being like, I hope they delay so we can delay is 100% correct. Like, I got a funny feeling if Microsoft came out and said, "Hey, we're delaying this thing. We don't have a specific date, 2021." Sony, I would argue more than likely wouldn't just be like, "Oh, we're still releasing." Nah, I think they would also delay.
It's such an unprecedented situation that it's almost like they should just fucking get together and talk it amongst themselves. But there's just too much kind of company pride and shareholder.
It wouldn't shock me if they are, though. Like, it would not shock me if they are having some level of communication of being like, "What do we do?" So we'll wait and see, I guess.
They're going to cost what they're going to cost, so it's not something anyone should worry about. That's completely out of our control. And if they are delayed, we still have great games coming out this year. Yakuza, Like a Dragon, I think that's what it's called. Cyberpunk, Kingdom Hearts, Melody of Memory. If you're into Assassin's Creed, you have Valhalla. There's Watch Dogs 3 coming out. There's that game that used to be called Gods and Monsters, and I didn't bother writing down its stupid new name.
Phoenix Rising. Is that it?
Yeah, Immortals Phoenix Rising. That's what it is.
Rising, yeah.
Plus, now that we know that Nintendo will hold a direct for a game they released 2 weeks later, there's nothing stopping them from holding one at the end of October for a game that's going to launch at the mid-November. So, Mulan wants to know what had the best ending: Mass Effect 3, Star versus the Forces of Evil, The Rise of Skywalker, Homestuck, or Game of Thrones. I'm going to be honest, I had to Google what Star versus the Forces of Evil and Homestuck are. I'm just going to assume, given the rest of the list, that they all had terrible endings. I don't know. I would have, if given the age of the Podtoid host, I would have asked, instead of Star versus, I would have gone with How I Met Your Mother, because I had an awful ending. But given the choices here that I know of, I'm going to go ahead and lean towards Game of Thrones as being the better one. Just because the ending didn't suck. It's just the lead up to the ending sucked. I'm fine with how that story ended. I just wasn't fine with the 2 seasons that preceded it.
I don't know. I haven't seen Game of Thrones, so I can't really comment on that. Mass Effect 3 is just dog shit. It's obviously not it. So I'm gonna go with Star. I already forgot the name of the movie. The latest Star Wars. I don't know. I liked seeing Palpy shoot a bunch of fucking lightning in the sky. And I don't know. That movie was so dumb that I kind of like just shut my brain off and somehow still enjoyed it. So I don't know.
I think that's the only way you can enjoy that movie.
Yeah, I like seeing Palpy be Palpy. So I don't know. That's what I'm going with.
All right. Last question. Let's go ahead and go back to Occam's for this one. What is one game or series you wish you could get your parents or siblings into?
I was never able to get my parents into games. Like, I remember completing Metal Gear Solid and being really stunned by the ending, and like immediately after the credits trying to like explain to my dad why it was a game-changing moment for like the media. But in his head it was just like Space Invaders. Do you know what I mean? But my sister has jumped in and out of games across her life. She's always seemed like someone who could play games more often, but she's always like inundated with super important stuff that's going on in her life. But she would liked a lot of SNES platformers. She played Mario World and Gambare Goemon a lot when we were younger. So it'd be cool if she kind of checked out modern day platformers, or like some Metroidvanias, or Hollow Knights and such.
Yeah. Dan. Although, Dan, we know your mom games, so
yeah, already kind of achieved this goal. But as for my dad, I really don't have an answer. Like, he's never once shown an interest in video games, like, at all. So I have no idea what he would even enjoy, like, to begin with. But my dad's like the kind of guy that like brought me into a pawn shop for Christmas one day, because I knew the Future Shop, which was like Best Buy for Americans, was not going to sell me GTA 3, because they were like, hey, this kid ain't buying this, even with a parent. So I like told my dad, oh, let's go to the pawn shop, and I just got a used copy, and he did not give a shit. Neither did the pawn shop people. So like, I don't think he understands games or has like any interest in them at all. And I think like when I dropped out of Taekwondo that summer, so I could play more Jak 2 on the PS2, he maybe realized video games were a mistake, and that probably like further killed any interest he had in video games.
For me, my parents, they're kind of into casual games and classic arcade titles. So like, they loved Wii Sports because they were white and in their 40s and 50s when that came out. I've also written about our family's history of playing Kirby's Avalanche together. And they own one of those tabletop arcade 1-up cabinets. Although when I spoke to my mom last about it, she said that they only sometimes play it when guests are over. So it's not something they do normally. I don't think I could get them into something like Animal Crossing, even though that kind of seems like the obvious answer because it's something that, older people of all ages can enjoy. I think they just think it's stupid. So if Sega could instead release a new Crazy Taxi, I think I could get them into that. I think that is, it's easy to understand arcade game, and if it comes with a steering wheel, I think that would be even easier to get them excited about it. Plus, I fucking love Crazy Taxi, so.
I've also heard that your parents are massive Offspring fans. So.
Yeah.
Oh, we may have to do a different soundtrack to that one to get some Doobie Brothers on there instead. My dad is a consistent tablet gamer. He games on his tablet a lot. Unfortunately, all he plays are slot machine games. Last time I was over there, he had about 15 different apps downloaded of slot machine games, and my mom went on there and made it so he couldn't put real money into it, just in case.
Good.
We are just about out of time, but before we go, Chris, we have a community shout out this week.
Yeah, I think so. There was a bunch of birthdays over the last couple of weeks. I'm really sorry if I forget anyone here, but Retrofaction and H Large and Home of the Blues and Dare, whose birthday was just yesterday. All of them are like mainstream regulars, so we really appreciate their continued support and have a great year. Also, just shout out to our missing associate Occam's, who I would be lost without, for a fun Q post thread that he did last week that had the community showing off like particularly memorable childhood toys. The thread was a lot of fun and it had a lot of cool memories in it. Whilst we're on the subject, CJ, Charlotte, Dan, any particularly memorable toys that you still have?
Oh, still have? No.
Or any particularly memorable toys?
My favorite toys growing up were the 10.5-inch X-Men action figures. Even though a couple of them had broken fingers, I loved the shit out of those toys growing up. So that would be my favorite childhood toy.
I still have my Alyssa Steamer tech deck. I found it the other day.
Nice.
And I've been doing sit tricks on my new desk.
Oh, I don't know. I have fond memories of cuddly toys more than like actual playing with things toys. I just remember that Legos were extremely painful to stand on. That's all I remember.
And for me, it's just Buckaroo, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. Hashtag throwback. All right. Thanks for covering for Occam's this week on that, Chris. That is it for this episode of Podtoid. On behalf of Charlotte, Chris, Dan, and myself, thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or the Destructoid YouTube channel.